Hey, Jimbo, are you ready for this deal?
Mash the gas, Cody.
I like that one.
Old stories like long lost friends, rodeos and late night bends, history before our time, round pens and pasture rides, cowboys of the Osage.
Howdy, friends and neighbors. Time once again for the Cowboys of the Osage podcast with your host, Jimbo Snively and Cody Garnett. Now let's sing a little bit about it. Cowboys of the Osage, riding once again. Always got some time for a friend. And here they are, the Cowboys of the Osage.
Howdy, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Cowboys of the Osage podcast, brought to you by the Ben Johnson Cowboy Museum and the Buck and Flamingo Turquoise Shop, both located in historic downtown Pawhuska, Oklahoma. Hey, it's old Cody over here, and as always, I have my main man with me, Mr. Rodeo Historian himself, heck of a songwriter too, Jimbo Snively. Morning, Jimbo. Who are we talking to?
Hey, good morning, Cody, and it's a great day in Osage, man. And Cody, we got Mr. Ed Eddleman on the end of the line, and Don wears a lot of hats. He's the rodeo coach at Cisco College. He's the steer roping director right now, steer roping. He's a great steer roper himself. He's won the legacy steer roping at Cheyenne. And we're going to get into all that, what's going on in the steer roping world today, in the college world, the national finals college division, and all that stuff. And Don Ed, welcome to the Cowboys of the Osage podcast.
Thank y'all for having me.
Well, we're glad to have you.
You know, I got kind of a close tie to Don Ed, and he may not even know it. Did you know my dad went to Cisco College on the rodeo team, Jimbo?
I do know that. Steve Woolman, Buster Record, Roy Cooper, Raymond Hollabaugh. I mean, back in the day, Cisco College was the Tarleton of what goes on now. Like Tarleton, Cisco College in the 70s and that early 80s, it was crazy.
Wow, you guys need a Hall of Fame, Cisco Hall of Fame.
Did I see
we're working on it. That's one of the things we're working on.
Good.
Did y'all recruit Ketch Kelton? Did I read that?
Yes, Ketch goes to school with us this year.
Wow.
He's a freshman there.
I tell you what, that's a few years ago I picked that to be the next great all-around timed event guy.
Yeah.
And he just proved me right a couple weeks ago over there at the timed event.
Well, he about lapped the field, didn't he?
He's going to be a man amongst boys in that college ranks, I feel like.
Well, he is. He is not weak in any events. That's the best thing about Ketch.
Did he go to the college national or the high school national finals last year and win every event that he win in?
He's won the team roping and the all around at the high school finals.
What a great rodeo family he's came from.
He's 19 years old. What's the over and under on how many Ironmans he's going to win?
He's going to be up there, isn't he? He's going to give Trevor a run for the money if he can stay healthy.
Yeah, and he's a little thicker made guy than Trevor to me, so he's liable to stay healthy. Yeah. You know, he's a little stronger looking.
Well, he does have an attitude, and his attitude is you can't phase him, you can't bother him. Everything's happy-go-lucky with him. It's every day he approaches it one thing at a time. He does our welding program there at school. He has to go Monday through Wednesday, 8 to 12, and he's an asset to our program, though we're glad to have him.
You know, his dad's the same way. He's just a happy-go-lucky, good fella, you know, and you know his dad.
I think his dad's more happy-go-grumpy.
Well, everybody gets that way every now and then, especially when you get as old as his dad is now. You know, his dad, Jimbo, one year, he backed in the box in the 10th round of the national finals with a chance to break the arena record on 10 and win the world that day. Some stuff happened, but Boy, howdy. That's a lot. That's a lot of pressure to back up in the box.
Well, I mean,
but anyway, he comes from a great rodeo family, old Catch does. And boy, howdy, everybody be looking forward to watching this guy, his career progress through all the ranks. I mean, big things in college is going to happen for him. Big things in the pros are going to happen for this guy.
sound like it. Well, where were you raised up at, Don Ed?
I originally grew up in Newcastle, Texas, a little old town there in North Texas. I graduated high school at Graham, Texas, in 1984. My parents were both school teachers. My dad taught ag there at Newcastle, and my mother taught English and was a coach there at Graham. And I graduated there in 84.
Well, how'd you get interested in rodeo?
Well, my dad roped when he was in college. He went to school at Tarleton when it was a junior college back in the late 50s. And then he went to East Texas State University there at Commerce, which is Commerce A&M now. And he had a little old group of men. They roped calves at some of the college stuff and that. And he was interested in it. And when I was a kid, my dad rode fraternity horses for the cutting horse fraternity in Fort Worth every year for the NCHA fraternity. And he was training the 2 and 3 year olds, and I would turn back for him, and we did a lot of it on goats back then. So that's kind of where I got my start, was roping those goats that we were cutting and training cutting horses on, and it evolved from there pretty fast.
Have you ever tried to line out a goat with a rope, Jimbo?
Yeah, they got some ducks in them.
They can duck and dive worse than anything I've ever tried to rope before in my life.
Right.
It's crazy.
You can learn to throw a loop if you're chasing goats, I promise you.
Y'all were cutting goats back then?
Yeah, they'd start them out on, like now, sometimes these guys use buffalo and stuff. Back then, we'd get those big mutton wethers, and we would start them on them because they were docile and gentle and good to start to do it. And it's cheaper too back then too.
You know, those buffalo, I can't imagine all them being docile and gentle. They might.
I think they get that way the more they cut them.
Gotcha.
I hadn't heard about that. They're using buffalo to train.
Yeah, that's been happening for quite a while,
Okay,
Jimbo.
well, I'm not up to speed on the cutting horse industry, obviously.
I think they move a lot quicker than a regular
they're
cow.
like a cat.
And, get some horses.
Yeah,
really cutting.
about the time the cutting horse deal kind of got really expensive in the late 70s, early 80s. That's kind of when he and I transitioned to the roping deal, and I started roping quite a bit then. We'd bought a couple older horses and kind of got started back on it.
Calf roping?
Yes, sir, calf roping. Mainly a calf roper. I team roped quite a bit too and trained a few heading and heeling horses, and actually bulldogged when I was in college. A good friend of mine, which is a coach at Southwest Texas Junior College at Uvalde, Joey Allman, he caught me one year when we were in college there at Christmas, and I stayed with him and worked on it. And that next semester, I won a little bit bulldogging. I got to go to college finals one year bulldogging.
I can't even imagine you bulldogging, Don Ed.
Yeah, 5'7", 140 pounds.
His feet were dangling off the ground. I can't believe.
More like a catch dog's what I was. Grab an ear and hold on.
Yeah. Well, what got you interested in steer roping?
I grew up in the era there in rope calves and got my permit back in the middle 80s, and I was around those guys all the time. Jim Davis, Sean Burchett, Arnold Phelps, that whole group that roped back in the late 80s, and Guy Allen and them. Mm-hmm. And I watched it, as a calf roper, I watched it. Man, I wanted to do it. But who do you get with? Who was the guy to go to, Mm-hmm. I didn't know. So I got to be friends with Jim Davis after he moved to Abilene. Mm-hmm. And I had a calf horse that was really nice that actually came from Josh Edwards, the pickup guy that was pickup man of the year a few years ago in the PRCA. But Josh, I bought his calf horse from him that he rode in high school, and he was really, really tight and really good calf horse. But I mean, like would lock down about the time he threw. Mm-hmm. And I rode him at a bunch of calf ropings, rodeos, and placed on him a little bit. And I actually had placed on him at Kansas City in a round and the average. And that horse shut me out on both of them, and I'm trying to get off of him. And I took him from there to Jim Davis's house, and I told him, I said, turn him into a steer horse for me, please. And Jim called me about 30 days later, and he said, "You've got a steer horse." And this was the easiest one I ever made up.
You know, a lot of those old setting up calf roping horses, once they got to setting up so bad, those guys couldn't rope on them. I've known a lot of horses they turned into steer roping horses after that.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's something to it.
Yeah.
Well, they're already past all the other part of it too. Jim told me, he said, buy you about 10 little steers that are be fun that you can learn on for yourself. And I kind of did that. And then I entered a few. This was in '99, I guess, 2000. I entered a few rodeos and ropings. And one of the first ones I went to on that horse, I went to Dalhart. And that arena's probably about 4 or 5 acres big. It's huge. And I come across there, and my steer ducked to the right. And when he ducked to the right, I stood up and gave it to him. And when I stood up and gave it to him, that horse stopped and jerked him down. And no trip, just straight over backwards, just like a cat. And I was like, oh, my God. And Buster Record came up to me, and I was green to the sport, too, you know. And he tapped me on the back. Buster said, it's okay. He said, that happened to all of us that have converted those tight cat horses.
I remember one of the first ropings I ever saw Don Ed at. He came to, there was this fella, I think, named Doug Dugan having ropings in Springtown, Texas. And Don Ed showed up there. And I think he made a clean sweep that day. He showed up roping in the C's. Before long, he won the C's. Then he roped in the B's. And he won the B's that day. And I'm pretty sure he won the A roping that day. He won all 3 ropings they had. And were you there with James Allen that day?
Yeah, I think so.
Do you remember that, Don Ed?
Yep. No, I do. I remember that.
That's when everybody
and that's the way,
took a big notice to Don Ed that day.
Yeah, back then we all got started at the club ropings, you know, the little jackpots and stuff, too.
For sure. We still got a good club going up here. There's a decent club going on down there in Texas, too, isn't there?
Yes, Joby Mooney does the Lone Star Steer Roping Association, and he does an outstanding job, too. I mean, an outstanding job. They've got a C, a B, and an A on their deal. And he really works at it and works at it hard.
Well, it's good. There's a place a guy can go learn the ropes down there. And up here we got the Osage Steer Roping Club, probably the longest running steer roping club there is, and they're just fixing to crank up too. So.
Yeah, but that C is a great deal.
Yeah.
You know, it sure is.
And the B's a pretty good deal too.
B's
really
a good deal too. But that C is really where somebody green can just show up and rope, and even got a chance to win a little something. Not roping against a bunch of wolves. You know.
Yep. Unless Don Ed decides to win that day. He was tying them in 10 and 11 at that C roping one day.
Well, it doesn't take you long to get called out of that once they'll give you a chance too, and then they'll call you out, which is good though. It's good to give everybody a chance to get started, and that's the reason the college deal. Jess Turney, he got me started on that. Oh, it's been several years ago. He said, we got to do that. I'm a coach now. You're a coach. He said, we got to do it. And I got to thinking about it. Well, I'd already had 5 or 6 kids that were steer ropers that were going to those club ropings, and some of them entered the pro rodeos. And I said, man, he's probably right. We've got to help them with that. And so I told Jess, I said, give me a year. I'm building a set of apartments for the college kids, my rodeo kids at Cisco. I said, as soon as I get that project done, I'll start a new one. I said, this will be our deal. So we got started on it. This is our 3rd year on the college steer roping on that. And we've had 60 participants in the last 3 years from 23 different schools. The kids have to have 300 points to qualify for the finals. And the last 2 years, we've had 18 kids each year, students, cowboys and cowgirls that have qualified for the finals. And it looks like this year we may have a few more we did have 37 entries at Texas Tech at their college rodeo, which was the largest we had seen up to this point.
That's quite a hell. There's some pro rodeos getting towards the end of the year that don't get that many.
No, that was and Jared Hostetler is a big supporter of our college steer roping, and he's a big supporter of college rodeo. And he got behind that and had a shootout for those kids and added 5,000 to it. And it was a lot of kids were entering for a chance to rope that big money too. It was really a unique and cool deal for those kids.
How hard was it?
And Catch Kelton won it too. The 5,000. Imagine that.
Well, if you ever have a Calcutta, put me in on Catch and Riley O'Rourke. I'll take them both.
No, that is unique too. I've had 15 of those 60 kids have actually been Cisco College kids. So about 25% of the college steer ropers have come right there from Cisco. Our two national champions we've had have been Trent Sorey and Slade Wood. Trent was the 23 champion and Slade Wood was the 24 champion. And both of those are Rookie of the Years in the PRCA. We've had the Rookie of the Year the last 4 years out of that college steer roping too.
Slade's been to the finals a few times himself. The big show.
Yeah, Slade's been to the steer roping finals at Mulvane 3 times. And that is a goal of mine for the college steer roping. I'd like for the Rookie of the Year every year to come out of that college steer roping group. It shows the significance of it and shows that those kids are the next group growing up and prepared.
I think you might have the Rookie of the Year this year, too.
I've already on my list. I've got Riley O'Rourke written down, penciled in there.
Pretty good chance.
Yeah, we're pretty high on Riley around here. We've all watched him grow up and mature in his roping, and we're real proud of that kid up in this country.
Y'all watched a lot of steer roping too, and I watched quite a bit of it. He might be as phenomenal as anybody on that stopwatch too. I mean, he is very natural at what he does too, and very poetic. And I mean, what steer roping we envision as an older generation, he makes that deal look like that too.
Well,
he ran a steer at Andrews this weekend, right down there in the middle of the first set of the bucking shoots. It was 9-3 and tied for an arena record. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, we're pretty tickled with him, but you know, all that isn't natural ability. He's put buckets and buckets load of sweat into his craft to get as good as he is at a young age. So as he matures on and learns a little more, I mean, holy moly, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. That's just our opinion.
No, and I tried to recruit him too. I tried to get him to go to school with me, and he said he was going to go to school with Jess. And I told him, I said, man, whatever you do, don't let Jess mess you up.
Well, he picked a pretty good guy because Jesse's going to be entering the rodeos and stuff, and it's good. I'm glad that Riley found him a good veteran to maybe travel with and learn the ropes of going to the pro.
Well, and Riley's really a literal thinker too, and kind of dry. And when I told him, I said, don't let Jess mess you up. He kind of looked at me and he wanted to know, what are you kind of talking about? And I said, I'm just teasing, Riley. I'm just teasing.
He's got great family support at home. Everybody's pushing for him to do well this year. And from here on.
His dad, Joe, roped good too, though. Joe roped good.
Yeah, me and Joe were hauling partners for many years.
Joe broke out roping at my house when he was just a little kid. We lived about 1.5 miles apart. His dad bring him down every evening, and that's where he learned to rope.
We were down at Guyman one time, and I was with Joe and them, and we were all at this bar called the Papa Top Bar there downtown Guyman. Mm-hmm. I left, but I guess after I left, Joe done smarted off to the wrong guy. Joe's about 6 foot something tall, and the next morning I saw him in his trailer. He couldn't even open either one of his eyes; they were black. And it was a guy about Don Ed's size that got him, 5'7" against a 6'7" guy.
His dad used to say that's getting the wrong pig by the ear.
Yeah, Joe literally had to peel his eyes open to even open them because they were stuck together from being bruised.
Wow. Don Ed, these steer roping, college steer ropings, are they standalone or are they part of the overall college rodeo, or are they off by themselves?
We've been having them. We've had about 14 to 16 different places throughout the year. We do in the fall and in the spring, kind of separately. We do a couple of them in conjunction with some PRCA sanctioned events, and there's some that are standalone. Just that's the only thing we have. At maybe like we have a cleanup every year at Cisco College at the end of the year that kind of helps anybody that needs some points, or it's a last chance qualifier kind of deal. Then we have them with the college rodeos. We actually have 7 college rodeos in the Southwest region that we have steer roping at the deal, and we have had it in the short round at several of them too. And it's been televised on the Cowboy Channel. It makes it kind of neat there, too. We usually have a 2-header and then a 1-header. And when I set it up, I set it up kind of because I was afraid I was going to have to loan some horses to some of my kids. And I thought, well, one of them can rope in the 2-header and one of them can rope in the 1-header. Well, realistically, that's what I was thinking. But it didn't turn out that way. Our kids have kind of done a pretty good job finding horses and trying to make a few up and stuff. But the best thing about it is after the 2-header, the kids have a chance to start over with a clean slate for that 1-header. And I think confidence-wise, that kind of helps them too on that. We are not part of the NRA. I do use the parameters for the NRA for eligibility. When people ask about it, I tell them we are an invitational event. And to get an invitation to go to a college steer roping, you have to buy an NRA card, be eligible, meet all the parameters in the NRA. The office up there is real good. If I call and check on the kid, they'll tell me whether they're eligible or not. But the biggest thing the kids have to do is send me a video. If you can't send me a video of you tying and tripping a steer, then I tell you, you need to go back and get a video. Send me another.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the deal too. I've had a couple of kids sent me a video, and I said, "Do you have another one?" Yeah.
How do you see this?
So that's kind of the basis of the ropings and stuff too.
Do you see it growing every year, Don Ed? How's it been received?
It has. Every year, it's kind of got a little notch up that ladder. It has every year. And it's spreading too a little too. Yeah. We've got some kids up in the northern area in Wyoming and Nebraska and Kansas, and I had a kid from Washington, Oregon up there.
Wow.
That came down the last year and roped with us too. They went to school out in Arizona.
This deal could go nationwide because there's tons of steer ropers in the Northwest. There's tons of steer ropers and steer roping families in Wyoming. Have you had any college ropings in anywhere outside of like Texas?
Yes. We have one at Torrington every year during the National Circuit Steer Roping Finals, PRCA's, the National Circuit Finals. And then we, Jess Journey has a couple up there in Oklahoma. We're actually having one at Prescott at the end of April, 1st of May. It's the last college rodeo for that Grand Canyon region. And Jim Dewey Brown, which is our commissioner for the NRA, is actually putting it on for the region. And we're going to have a steer roping out there at Prescott too. So I'm excited about that.
Do they have that at the regular rodeo grounds?
Yes, they're at the regular rodeo grounds. Same start, same deal out there too.
Well, that's just a fun place to rope because it's different than anywhere else you go in and rope.
It is not like anywhere else you'll go. No.
For sure.
What's different about it?
It's been a while since I've been there. The team roping's definitely different, but I felt like the steer roping was a little bit too. Just the way that it's all set up. It's just it's an arena. It's an arena type that you don't see very often.
Yeah, that box is real deep, and it's a little narrower, and it has 2 spots back there in the back of that heeling and calf roping, steer roping box, to where 2 horses can come from there, and you can either come from the inside or the outside.
I see.
That's what it is, Jimbo.
Yeah. Well, I knew it was something. Well, Cody, this is going to have a big effect on steer roping, don't you think?
I surely think it will, because the only feeders we've ever had was the club ropings before. Now they're taking some dang sure good ropers and making steer ropers out of them in this college ranks. A lot of the guys at the club ropings, heck, they might not even ever roped anything before they started to rope steers.
Yeah.
And a lot of the sea ropers and that are older guys that aren't very fast anymore. I just like the looks of all the young new faces coming up and giving them a good chance and some good mentors to actually rope and train under. You know what I mean?
Right. You got at least.
Well, and Coleman Proctor said something to me this weekend at Andrews, and he said, if you're wondering what kind of impact the college steer roping is having on what we're doing, he said you need to have been at the timed event, because Ketch won first and Dylan Hancock won second. And Dylan was also a Cisco College kid and did the college steer roping. He actually, all through his college steer roping, he rode one of my horses, or rode all of our horses at different times. But that was a pretty good compliment coming from Coleman, that he even can see it too there, on the deal too.
You've got at least one young lady.
Yeah, Cassandra Shoemaker, Dr.
Right.
Wade Shoemaker's daughter, and her brother Coy goes to school with me. And yes, she's made it the last 2 years, and this year is going to be hard for her because she's in vet school at Kansas State at Manhattan, and just trying to get to the roping is going to be hard for her this year too. But she is a handy little cowgirl, handy.
Yes, she is.
Yeah, we did a podcast with her here.
Yeah,
right after she won that big rodeo, first woman to ever win a PRCA rodeo. Yeah. It's probably good that on them boys that she's going to be tied up so much this year, because her roping just seems to be getting better and better.
Right.
Well, she called me that first year and told me, and I didn't even know her. I knew her dad, and she said she wanted to enter the college steer roping. And she did catch me off guard. I hadn't even thought of that. I hadn't thought about the ladies, the girls, the women. I hadn't even addressed that in my mind. And she said, "Can I enter?" And I said, "Well, yes, you can enter." I said, "I've steer roped long enough to know that steer roping will decide whether you can do it. I don't have to make that decision for you." So that's the policy we went with after that phone call.
Back in the day, there used to be quite a few women steer ropers. You see all those old pictures from like Pendleton and stuff. They'd rope in a skirt, buckskin skirt.
They were more exhibitions, than anything, but they were still pretty good watching.
Yeah.
Or, took good pictures.
The neatest thing, one of the neat things that came out of that though was the summer after she competed at that first one, and we got a lot of publicity out of it on the Cowboy Channel and some articles. I bet you I had at least 10 men come up to me when I went rodeoing that summer in Wyoming, Dakotas, and all that up there too, to all those summer rodeos, and Kansas, Nebraska too, all of them. And they said, "Hey, thank you." They said, "We have daughters, and we only have daughters, and you cannot believe the impact that's made on them wanting to broaden their horizons and dream bigger and do things that are out of their box, too, out of their comfort zone."
Yeah.
Yeah, and the dad said it allows those kids to spend time with them, too.
Absolutely.
With their dads,
We had a girl or two in our Osage Steer Roping Club a time or two, Cody, over the years.
Yeah, Lynn Starr.
Yeah, Lynn Starr and Charlie Noble's daughter, and I can't think of her first name, roped. And what was kind of bad about it.
Was it Lynn Noble?
No, that was the son.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But the girl, and I can't think of her name. But anyway, it was kind of bad because when I was on the board, we just started the C's. We'd always just been a B and A. And we started the C's as for strictly beginners, and they could only be in the C's 1 year, and they had to move to the B's. That was just the ground rules we set. Well, she roped in the C's 1 year, and then the next year we moved her, when we had our meeting, we moved her to the B's like all the rest of them. Her dad come and talk to me, Charlie, and trying to contest me a little bit on that rule. And I said, Charlie, that's the rule. I mean, we said it, and that's the way it's going to be. And he didn't like it much, but she got moved to the bees.
There was also a big matchup here one time.
Yeah.
World champion Sean Burchett, his wife, matched local girl here, Lynn Starr, McGuire,
Yeah.
Holloway. I don't know. She's got a lot of names now.
Right.
And Lynn beat her.
Yeah,
Lynn beat her.
roped good. I was there. I was standing right there. I never will forget it.
Yeah. I love that.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to get another one going. I've been trying to get Cassandra up here to match Thomas Smith's sister during the Ben Johnson. Because
That would be a good one.
it'd be
That
a
would
really
be a
good
one.
match. I mean, Thomas Smith's sister ropes really good, and Cassandra Shoemake ropes really good. I just think that would be a very good match, honestly.
Well, and when we had that first college steer roping, my announcer was John Sharp, and John's a graduate of Texas Tech, and he is a assistant rodeo coach at Howard College right now. And I told John, you know, people were kind of pulling at him different directions about Cassandra, and I told him, I said, hey, here's how this deal works. I said, we're not going to make a big deal about her being a female in this steer roping contest today in our finals. I said, she's a steer roper first. She just happens to be a female. I said, we do not want to put any more pressure on her than she's already put on herself. So we toned it back a little, you know, during our production of that steer roping finals, just because you know, and she does. She's one of those. She's a competitor. She puts a lot of pressure on herself, but I told him, I said, she's a steer roper first. I said, you know,
It's just something you don't see very often.
No.
That's for sure.
No,
Especially entering big rodeos.
it is an exception. It is an exception.
And I'm glad to see it.
Me
I'm glad
too.
to see another good woman steer roper come up.
Shoot you out.
No doubt about it.
Well, we're excited for it. And the future of the college steer roping, I see us staying and doing kind of what we're doing right now for several years. Ideally, I would love to propose this to the NRA board of directors and them accept it. It'd be a national deal. Theoretically, that would be perfect. Realistically, we have states that won't even allow it. So, you know, I don't know. Time will tell as we get into this too. But
Well, how many states is steer roping actually illegal in, Don Ed?
I don't know about the word illegal too. I don't know. You know what the difference is between illegal and unlawful, don't you?
What?
Well,
Cody should
unlawful is
know.
against the law, and illegal is a sick bird.
Yeah.
Yeah, at one time, Jim Thompson actually looked it up, did a lot of research, said it's not illegal anywhere. You know,
Yeah.
there's certain rules you can't do
They
for some
used
reason.
to say it was illegal in Texas. And Joe was telling me, my Uncle Joe said around 1960, and they'd already had them at San Angelo. I think it started in 52.
Well, the real early days, it was illegal in Texas for sure.
Well, yeah, that for sure. But even in the 50s and 60s, it was supposed to still be illegal. And they had them at San Angelo, but Joe said it was far down there, nobody cared. But Don McLaughlin was living in Fort Worth, and he had one in Fort Worth. And Joe thought it was around 1960, because him and Jim both were entered, and said Don, they called it a branding.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
And Don paid them all $1, wrote them a check for $1 for branding his cattle. And you'd tie a steer, and somebody'd come out there with some paint and a branding iron, and they'd stick that branding iron in that paint and brand that steer.
I heard Kenny Call put on a roping like that one time.
And Joe said, I was stupid for cashing that check. I wish I had that check. It was just $1, you know. But, of course, they paid the jackpot just like any other jackpot, you know, but they had to pay him. Don paid him $1 for Brandon. So he wrote everybody a $1 check.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Don Ed, what made you decide to run for the director of steer roping in the PRCA?
Yeah, what were you thinking?
Well, yeah, what was I thinking? Well, actually, I have to credit my wife for that, Pam. We were up north summer before last, I guess, and the guys were all asking me, "Hey, we want you to run for the director." And I said, no. And then we were in the motorhome driving across over there to Deadwood, and Pam looked at me and she said, "Do you know why those guys are asking you that?" And I said, "No." She said, "They're asking you that because," said, they need somebody right now. They're JP had done a great job for 16 years, but he was ready for a new chapter in his life. And she said, you need to be serious about it and think about it." So I did a little soul searching that night. And the next day I told several of them that had asked me, I said, "Yeah, I'll put my name down and do it too." And actually the college deal had got started good. And I thought it was kind of good enough that I didn't have to devote, all my time to that. And I really enjoy steer roping. My son, Will, got started on it a few years ago. All these kids that I'm involved with in the college are going to grow up into it. It kind of fits my time in life right now too. So I'm glad to do it, and I'm proud to do it too, to be a director and be on the executive council.
There's a lot of people watching rodeo now. A lot of fans that actually don't know the inside workings of it. How are you actually elected to be the representative for the steer ropers?
So you have to be nominated, and after you have to be nominated by at least 5 people, and then after you're nominated, you'll go on a ballot. Years ago there was hand ballots that you mailed in. Everything's electronic now, how we do stuff. So that's how you get voted. They run from April till April 1st every year is how the director's term is. One of the biggest things, and I kind of knew it, but I really knew it after JP told me, was I had to help produce and put on the National Final Steer Roping up at Mole, Maine. And that I put on some stuff and been involved in production, but that's a big production. That's the pinnacle of our sport. John Gwatney and Sandy have been unbelievable to that for the last 10 plus years. And it's a big undertaking though. That's a big undertaking.
Yeah, it is. It is a big undertaking.
Cody, I think I told you my grandfather was director in 1948, steer roping director.
No kidding, Jimbo.
Yeah.
You probably told me, but I forgot.
Yeah.
JP.
Well, and y'all had James Allen on there. James Allen was a director. James is here local too. I've lived here at Santa Ana for 27 years now, and I've known James for a long time, and Guy, and they're really good, and they're really good with steer roping. And y'all know that too. There's probably nobody that loves steer roping more than James Allen did.
I saw James just the other day. He was up here in town at a dance.
Really?
He was up out there cutting a rug.
Wow.
That's James Allen.
JP Wickett, 16 years. James Allen did a lot for steer roping on numbers of rodeos that they had just overnight. Went from like 10 rodeos, 12 rodeos to 30 rodeos, the next year. And then, then we had Mel Potter. Then we had Delbert Kyler as a steer roping director here. And Buster Record was a steer roping director. And then JP Wickett come along. I think JP did more than anybody. He brought steer roping to a lot of places that we've never been to before. Even if we only went once, he stayed on all the rest of that board's rear, I felt like, and anything that the PRCA was doing, if they were having a special Heartland Finals, this thing we had one time, well, he insisted the steer roping be part of it. And I just feel like he did a lot of things for steer roping, got us in San Antonio's rodeo there. I don't know how all that's going now, but he just brought us to a lot of places we've never been to before, and it was just unbelievable. And I said, JP, how are you doing this? He's like, well, to be honest with you, I don't think anyone's ever asked, and anyone's ever pressed the subject for us to do these things. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, no, it's he did a phenomenal job. He did some stuff that needed to be done. The best thing about JB, and y'all know that, is the fact that he's not going to get too far left and too far right with what we're doing. and he knows, and he's listened to those other directors in years past to know if it's been tried before, or let's don't go there. Let's try to stay. There's some ruts here we're in. Let's kind of try to. We can get right outside of them, but we got to stay on the road.
Yeah, he's done a lot. The finals is paying. Well, it's paying what it was paying in 1989 at Vegas now, but you're at $10,000 a go round now.
Right.
That's
no,
pretty big.
the finals. Yeah, Tom Glaus has really, really stepped up the game for everybody. And with the playoff series, too, now there's 17 of those rodeos that are in the playoff series, and we're going to have a big finals for 12 guys at Sioux Falls the last Saturday in September. At those playoff series, they give points through 20th place in the average. And it's weighted. It's weighted points. So the bigger the rodeo, the more points they give per rodeo. It's going to be a big deal and a new venue for steer ropers this year. We're also looking at in 2026 having a standalone finals. They have an Extreme Bronx finals and they have Extreme Bulls finals in PRCA, in which our standalone steer ropings, our signature series, is the same thing we do. And last year we had 10 of those standalone ropings, and the Ben Johnson is one of them. But we want to have a finals for those, for the standalones, that add a significant amount to make it one more place for these steer ropers to go to with a lot of added money.
Well, that's a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer. You got all these standalones, and all the other events have their own standalone finals. Why not steer rope?
Well, just for like the Ben Johnson, it'll give something to hang y'all's hat on. The fact that y'all are part of the standalone finals. That's where the points come from.
Right. How long is Mulvane locked up on that contract?
I got the dates the other day for the next 4 years.
Okay.
We're going to be right around the second week of November for the next 4 years at Mulvane up there too.
Well, that's good. Seems like they found a good home up there. Just looking at it.
Boyd Gaming has really stepped up, but I'm going to tell you who else has stepped up with that Sioux Falls is Cinch. Cinch has stepped up and helped out the steer ropers too.
Yeah.
But Boyd Gaming has really helped.
Yeah, that looks like a heck of a deal. Everybody seems to like it up there. And of course,
it's a good venue for the steer ropers. It's ideal. Parking is great. Stalls are great. The only thing that is sometimes in November up there in Kansas, the weather can get kind of bad.
Boy, that's a rat maze turning off that interstate, getting in there too. All them circle drive. You ever been up there, Cody?
I'm embarrassed to say I've never been to Mulvane to the steer rope.
There's about 2 of those circle drives you have to go through to get to the arena. Kind of funny.
Yeah, I got a bill for about $50 for going the wrong way on one of them out of the turnpike in Kansas.
I've been going up there playing craps and stuff, and over the summer or over the fall, and I got turned around once and had to start over. Heck of a deal. I'd hate to come out there drunk.
We have about 600 members in the PRCA. 6,000 members, and we're probably 60, a little more than that, counting the permit holders and stuff. But we have 273 that are actually listed as active steer ropers in the PRCA right now too. Which to me, that's one of my goals. Is the bareback riders are about a little 20 or 30 more than us, and I'd like those guys that enter the steer roping once a year to declare as a steer roper on their membership, so that way we're accurate on our membership count too through PRCA. PRCA is a membership-driven organization, so we want to help with that also for our group and for steer ropers.
I assume that's an all-time high. Is that right? No.
It is. The amount of money. Last year they had a decline in 2024 over the last previous years of rookies for some reason, and they didn't know the criteria and why we reached that. But last year the rookies were down a little as a total. But I see it going right back up. I don't know if it was just one particular year.
Right.
I feel like it kind of runs in cycles. One year there'll be several rookies, and one year there'll be 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about in all PRCA, not just steer roping too.
Oh, I got you.
No. Yeah, I think they told us $77 million is what we paid out in 2024 in the PRCA. $77 million.
Wow.
That's like one basketball player's contract. Isn't that neat?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was supposed to say just $77 million. I would have figured you guys would have paid a little more than that.
Yeah, $77 million.
And you know what? Most of that was actually the Cowboys' money. The biggest majority of
That's true. That is correct. You are correct.
You know, Don Ed, Cody and I have been talking. We've had this discussion several times that the availability of cattle is a headwind against steer roping and all roping, team roping, and everything right now.
calf roping, team roping, everything. I feel like
how's that going to be addressed?
Well, the border at Mexico, they do have it open right now, but they're shipping more of the commercial cattle across and not so much of the horn cattle. We have 7 men that are involved in the contracting of steer roping right now in the nation, in the United States. And I've talked to every one of them on the phone last week. And up in the Northwest, that Caleb McMillan, he's kind of got a set put together for those Northwest rodeos. But there'll be a little dilemma maybe when we get to those last 3 or 4 to figure out our plan and figure out if we've got the steers for that at the very end, too. I've talked to Bobby Joe Hill and Corey Ross and John Bland and Corey Thompson and Corey Thompson, and they all got this. Everybody's got spots down there, and they've got permits, and they've got cattle that are spoke for. They just haven't crossed them, too. So we will probably see some natives at some of this stuff this year. And I say natives, I'm talking about native Carini cattle that were born and raised over here in the United States, too.
What makes a Mexican steer a little bit better in most ropers' eyes than a native?
The M brand on them is where it is. It says in the PRCA rule book that they need to be, it doesn't say Mexican, it doesn't say M branded, it says Carini bred. So we have roped some Longhorn and Longhorn crosses over the years when availability gets bad. It could happen again. The Longhorns don't seem to last as long for us in our events as the Carini type cattle do. And most importantly, and y'all know this too, that Carini, because your dad did it for years, but those Carini type cattle, a lot of times that come across from Mexico have more age on them. We don't see the age on them that we used to see, and we don't see the horn size we used to see. But the age on them is what helps those cattle be able to have a little bit of a longevity in our sport too.
Donnie, do they even have the cattle down there like they used to, or have they went to a better grade of cattle in Mexico?
Well, no, bunch of those guys down there down south. They told me they put beef bulls on those just like people do here in the United States right now with these Carini-based cattle too.
Yep.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens this year because cattle prices are all-time high. You know, roping calves, they're going to be for them to bring in a set of roping calves. Them things are going to be costing $1,200-$1,300 a round.
Wow.
I've got a whole set of calves that Jeff Yates down here in Texas that does a lot of the pro rodeos and jackpots and stuff. He helps me with cattle for the college kids, and I've got a set of dairy cross that came from him that are solid black, and their backs are as wide as a kitchen table. I mean, they are as number one quality as they could be, and they're $1,000 a piece.
Yep,
that's a lot of money for a roping.
And it's tough. It's just tough too. And the deal with the steers is going to be tough too because, you know, we may have to run steers an extra few runs on them and stuff too.
Well, that's happened in the past. But I'm going to be adamant to the judges too at every rodeo we go to. If any of the steers start slowing up or stopping or anything, we're going to pull them off. We're going to pull them off just to help the sport, to help the event, and so that those animals, because a lot of our tripping steers go on to a second and third event. I know that the steers that I trip and I practice on, or we use at the college steer ropings, my son Will furnishes all the steers for the college steer ropings, and we bulldog them and team rope them at school when we're done with them tripping. And sometimes we'll have one around school there for 3 years. You know, by the time we've tripped him, team roped him, and bulldogged him.
And Cody mentioned there, this has happened before, back in the 50s. And Cody and I talked about before, they closed the border because of, I don't know if it was tick fever or what it was, but they closed the border. And they couldn't get cattle at all. And they went to Florida and got some horn cattle out of Florida and roped them for 2 or 3 years in the RCA and the jackpots. And that was a rodeo. They said they were slick and get up on your horse, bawling and trying to hook your horse and stuff.
Well, and we forget about it, but just 10 years ago in 2015, those native cattle were $1,000 a piece back then too, and they roped a lot of natives in 2015 at some of these pro rodeos too. And then it wasn't 2 years after that the market fell completely off, and those $1,000 steers were worth $500.
Yeah, I've seen them actually go from $1,000 to about $200 a round. About 20. Yeah. I mean, one time we were putting together a set of steers for Cheyenne, Jimbo and Don, and we had about half of them together. And then they shut the border down. They were costing, I don't know, around $500 a piece then. And they shut the border down. And the cattle that we had to finish Cheyenne out with, $1,200 a steer. But the resale on them was about $200 because anything with an M on it that had horns was automatically discounted, even on box meat or anything. Right. So it was a real rough patch in the steer roping cattle business around that time.
You made a lot of money on those, didn't you?
Yeah.
Boy.
Well, it's a dilemma that we have right now. It may go away temporarily, but it'll resurface and we'll see it again. It's going to be part of the struggles that we have with all rodeo cattle. I did hear the other day, not from him, but through somebody at the office or somewhere, that Riley Duval had approved some of the. He's the steer wrestling director. Had approved the steers that to use for a while now. That we used some last year because there's nothing else out there new. There's not a new set to go at too.
Well, as cattle get a little more wiser, our ropers are going to have to get a little more wiser too and do things a little bit different. Honestly, the way some of the ways they're doing it now may not work on a steer that's been around the block a little bit. They may have to set a run up a little better, which isn't always a horrible thing, really.
Well, and that's one thing to the college kids I try to preach. Every roping before we have a jackpot, I call them over there and we have a huddle. And I give them a little pep talk. And, sometimes I think I'm a coach, but I tell you what, all the time I think I'm a cheerleader. I'm probably, if you're one of mine, I probably will be one of your biggest cheerleaders. But saying that, I try to have a talk with them about setting the run up. Go get your steer rope first, set your trip, move your horse up, ride him out too. We're all guilty of it, not just the kids. We start out that way good, and then we're watching for the times, and we're listening, and we try to keep the clock back a little bit too, and we start taking shortcuts and cutting across shorty, and then we don't stay focused on our end goal too.
That's real easy to get. That's real easy to do. No doubt about it.
Well, that's one thing about steer roping. Calf roping, what's funny is we were at Andrews last weekend, and Shad Mayfield missed his first steer, and he blowed it out of there and had a shot right there, and he took it, and he missed him. And he rode back by me, and he looked at me, and I said, Shad, please just be more patient. Take 2 or 3 extra swings. Because I said, if you're thinking you're taking 3 extra swings, you might take 1 extra. I said, just be a little more patient. So then I'm riding out of the arena after I run my third one, and I had done the same thing Chad did. I got out, and I had it right there, and I took it, and I missed my steer, split the horns. And when I walked by, he looked at me, and I said, I guess you have something to say to me. And he said, yeah. He said, you need to be more patient. He said, you need to take 3 extra swings. I said, thank you, Shad. In saying that, Shad didn't go to our college steer ropings, but the last few years he's been around Cash Fretwell, and Cash Fretwell went to our college steer ropings, and they practiced together. And that's where Cash kind of got in the middle of the steer roping deal, was when he was over there with Cash, and they were practicing calves, and then they practice steers for Cash afterwards. And that's how Shad got into the steer roping, and he was our last year's all-around champion of the PRCA too. Yeah, and I contribute that to the college steer roping.
Yeah, I don't think you'd have won the all around without the steer roping last year.
No.
You know,
That's what it took.
There's some names entering the steer roping right now that really get people excited, like Shad Mayfield. Last year, before the Ben Johnson, we put the list out who was roping here, and Coleman Proctor had qualified. And I tell you what, I've never heard so much buzz for a steer roper coming to a steer open in all my life as when everybody knew Coleman Proctor was coming to town for the Ben Johnson. I mean, it was an electricity that I'd never really felt around a steer roper. You know what I mean, Don Ed?
Well, we're
He's such a
excited to have
popular
Coleman
guy.
as part of our group, too. He is an ambassador for the sport of rodeo, but he is a real ambassador for steer roping. He gets it. He gets the inside of it. He gets the outside of it, too.
I saw him and his daughter last year somewhere, and she was riding with him on the front of his saddle. And he rode by, and she told me my hair was pretty, Jimbo. And I said, thanks, yours is pretty too.
Oh, Cody.
Yeah. Yep, that really happened.
Yeah. Can't say it's ever happened to me.
Well, Don Ed, future steer open's looking bright, I guess, huh?
No, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it, too. I'm a planner, too. I want to sit down and maybe come up with a 5-year plan of things we want to do next at the college level and at the pro level. And that's where we kind of got started on the standalone finals. We wanted to wait a year on it and let this Sioux Falls do the pro playoff cheer deal. But every year, maybe we can take a notch out of what we need to do to progress the sport for the Cowboys too, for the ones coming up too, because it needs to be a little bit profitable to that top group, or we'll lose some all across the board too.
Well, it wasn't very long ago at all, what the 15th guy's making right now in the steer open would have won the world just a few years ago. So
no, that is
to
true.
me, that's a pretty big deal. I just can't believe what it's taken to make the steer open finals now, and then what the 15th guy ends up with is a pretty good chunk of change compared to the 90s. I guess the 90s was like 30 years ago now, but early 2000s even. It's came a long way.
Well, and realistically too, it's a different sport than any of the other. Event than the other events. I see it, and I see it's going to happen too. We're going to have a 50-something-year-old world champion steer roper in the next 10 years, unless those guys decide they don't want to keep going. But that whole group that are fixing to turn 50 or just turned 50, that have been doing this for 20 years, that have won world titles or haven't won one yet, I see one of them stealing one here one of these years too, if they have a good year, because this whole event's about horsepower too. Y'all know it. Y'all watched it. It is about horsepower. The better that horse is, the better that cowboy's going to be.
Cody Lee's got to be about to turn 50 if he's not already 50.
He is. He's fixing to turn 50 or just turning 50. Yep. Scott Snedeker just turned 50.
Chet Herron's lingering that 50. There's several of these guys really lingering around that 50-year-old.
Yeah. And that Chet Herron, I tell you what, he's phenomenal. He has been for years too. He is about as perennial on this deal as anybody could be in this sport.
Yeah, he's been a great roper for a long time. Fast on the ground, too. That's what I always think about. Anytime I think about Chet, I just think about a guy that's wicked on the ground.
Yep.
Yeah. And he hasn't lost much either, too. You know, all of us, I'll be 59 this next month, and I've lost a little. I don't ride as good as I used to. My balance sometimes is not as good. My desire's there, but Father Time, he's on my back a little bit, and I have to knock him off a little too. But it's one of those deals. As long as we stay after it, if I can ride every day and run a few every day, it keeps Father Time maybe one day away from where he's trying to creep up on you.
All them old timers used to tell me, Jimbo, old age and treachery will overcome youth and enthusiasm every time. And you know what? Most of those old suckers took most of my money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
great.
People age different now. Back when I was a kid, those 50-year-old ropers, they were done. Most of them smoked and this and that. They were just done. And now these 50-year-olds now are still going strong. Things have changed a little bit in that regard. I don't know if it's better food, whatever. Better exercise or whatever. But 70 is the new 50 or 60.
Yeah,
it's just like anything. That money has kept those guys in the game.
Yeah.
This money, when you're paying $10,000 a round at our finals, which still isn't enough, but is better than it's ever been. And those guys see that they can go up there and knock out 50, 60, 70,000, at a finals too.
Yeah.
Vin Fisher's nearing in on 50 himself. I mean, there's another guy that could win a world after 50 years old.
Mm-hmm. I guarantee you, you tell them I called it. In the next 10 years, I'm going to say we're going to have a 50-year-old world. And I tell you what, that's going to be tough because these kids that are going up, they're not going to quit mashing on the gas too. They're going to still work at it. And that Cole Patterson is phenomenal.
How old was he when he won his last world championship?
Talking about Rocky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, Rocky?
Yeah.
He was probably...
He may have been 50.
He was probably 50. Yeah, 50-something. He and I are the same age. We went to the college finals same time together. He won second in the calf roping my last year at the college finals. Rocky Patterson did.
He was a tough roper, no doubt. Holy moly.
He was a grumpy roper too, though.
Well, yeah, I dealt with him quite a bit, to be honest with you. I still got to tip my hat to him.
I like Rocky. Rocky's done a lot for the sport too. He's been a good ambassador for steer roping.
I'm sure one of the grumpiest guys going up and down the road right now is a guy that used to live in my bedroom with me, old Mike Chase.
Mike Chase.
I would have to think that you get quite a few calls from him every now and then.
Yeah, I called him in Andrews. I told him in Andrews right before the roping started. I said, Mike, go ahead and chew on me right now. He goes, I don't have nothing to chew on you about. I said, yeah, but I don't want you to wait till it's over. Go ahead and start right now. He said, no. He said, I'm happy now. He said, I'm going to be happy.
My dad said he called the other day, said he roped all four of them down in Andrews, only got one time. And I said, Mike's a dang veteran. Why didn't he pull out some kind of veteran move on that deal? I said, he had at least been trying to get time. But anyway.
Well, and that is the neat thing about steer roping is, when I rope calves and stuff too, you couldn't be 10 seconds off of whoever won the average and still get a check. You can be in steer roping because there's a lot of obstacles. There's lots of different things can happen too. So sometimes, if we're having a four-header, sometimes we're still paying off on three,
Clem McSpadden used to call that intangibles.
Yeah.
That would happen.
Intangibles, that's true. It is intangibles.
There is a lot of things that has to go right in order to even just get a qualified run. More than any other event, no doubt.
Yep.
Well, and even Cole Patterson, when I watch Cole, one thing I notice Cole does every time is he rides there and he goes right to that hill and stays there. And that is something that when I'm talking to these kids, I just tell them you got to go up there and stay there and look it over before you do it. Don't try to shorten the stick just because you can.
You got to catch.
You got to catch them. You got to catch them. There's no man in the calf roping out here for years in West Texas. He said you got to catch them to eat them. They're like catfish.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like steer roping's in pretty good hands with Don Ed.
Well, I thought it would be as soon as I saw the list of guys running last year or the year before, whenever that was. Me and my dad were like, you know what? I think Don Ed would be the best decision out of all these guys to lead the steer roping and continue it, further steer roping a little bit.
That South Dakota deal is going to be a big deal. I hadn't heard about that.
That's going to be huge.
Yeah.
That's going to be huge.
Well, there'll be 12 guys that'll be really happy about it,
Yeah.
and it's going to be big money too.
I know.
Somebody that's going to get out of there, it may make a difference whether they got in to the finals or not too.
Well, that would have came in handy for you, back in the early 2000s, Don Ed. I remember I was down at Beeville, Texas. You had a chance to make the finals that day, and you didn't, just stuff happened.
Yeah.
But you were right there, sitting 14th, 15th, or 16th.
At that last roping in 2001, I had figured, I thought, man, if I can win around and win the average, I can make the finals. And I won second in the round, and I think I won the average. And there was a couple of doctor releases at that rodeo that had messed my figure up a little bit. And to this day, and I'm not going to name his name, But if he hadn't adopted released, I might have got JP Wickett one less in that far spot.
Yeah, I remember that. It wasn't Beeville. I think it was Belleville down there. It was
Belleville. Yeah, Belleville. It was Belleville. Last rodeo of the year.
I was down there with the cattle.
I asked Jim Davis, I said, what should I have done different? And he looked at me just as square as he could, and he said, you should have went to more rodeos.
Yep.
I said, there you go.
You needed a playoff system going on is what you needed. Kind of like
I needed a little help at the end. That's right. That's right.
And now in all the other events, it seems like they're gearing down towards the end of the year. There's all kinds of special rodeos for those guys to make money.
No, we're excited about it. As a group, we are super excited about it. We're very appreciative to Cinch and Tom Glaus about it too, and Boyd Gaming. They've all stepped up. It's been really good. And the Mulvane too, the Kansas Star is really good to work with too.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people saying they wish the arena was a little bit bigger, this and that, and I just tell them, they're just damn lucky they're somewhere they're wanted, somewhere they're getting good money. I said, I wouldn't care if it was the alley between these two buildings. I said I'd be happy for them,
Yep.
Well, ideally, when you say we're going to have the roping at a casino and there's a hotel, well, that services everybody that wants to come.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great time. It's got to be.
That's a nice, clean casino too, and the hotel.
Yeah.
It's just a well-run place. What I've seen of it.
I'm going to try to talk Jimbo. Me and him's going to go down there, up there this year.
I'll probably be there that morning throwing dice.
Well, Don, Ed, we sure appreciate you coming on today, man.
Thank y'all for having me. I appreciate what y'all are doing for the history and the even the progression of steer roping too. This deal y'all are doing is going to make a difference. I know. And
we have the very first rope from the very first college national finals champion right here.
That's right. I sent you some memorabilia, didn't I? That's right.
You did.
I remember that.
You did, and we appreciate it, Don Ed.
You bet.
Jimbo, what else you got for Don Ed?
Well, just like I say, I think we're in good hands. So just keep doing what you're doing, and we'll be watching.
Hey, you're the steer
Sounds
roping
good. What
director.
y'all say? Give it the gas.
Yeah.
You're the steer roping director. What's your Mount Rushmore steer roping look like?
I grew up old school, so I even have to go back to Olin Young and Jeff Bob Altizer, and I was named after Don McLaughlin. So, Guy Allen has to be on there too. And I guess I'm just going to have to keep chiseling all the way around that whole side and put about 8 or 10 of them on it.
We have one of Don McLaughlin's world champion buckles and saddles here because they held the national finals here in Pawhuska 4 times, and it's one of his world champion buckles from here and one of his world champion saddles that he won here in Pawhuska. His brother, Bobby Mack brought it to us here a while back.
Pretty neat.
Yeah. No, I was named after Don McLaughlin and Ed Workman. Yep. And my dad told me when I was a kid, he said he wanted me to rope like Don McLaughlin and fight like Ed Workman. And then when I got a little older, he told me one day, he said, I think you rope like Ed Workman and fight like Don McLaughlin.
That Ed Workman, he invented one of the most famous roping bits of all time, bridle bits.
He did. He did. Being named after those two guys and to be in the industry that I'm in, at this age, it does. And I'm proud of my name too. I'll just say that I am proud to be named after them too. That is really pretty cool for me. And I do go by Don Ed. That's what they called me as a kid, but as an adult, I've gone by it because I'm proud of it.
Is Ed Workman still alive, Don?
No, he's passed away too. This last year.
Oh yeah, because someone had given us his. They were trying to get a podcast lined up here a couple years ago, so I didn't know if he was still alive or not. Well,
he was very nice to me. He was a good man. But that'd be my Mount Rushmore. I just have to keep chiseling away and add a couple around that corner.
Yeah, hard to cut it off at 4, isn't it?
It is hard to cut it off at 4. And we wouldn't be here today getting to do what we're doing if it wasn't for that group I'm talking. And even that, you can go back to Clark McIntyre. You can keep going, and even your dad and all them. If we don't go back to them, we don't get to do what we're doing. And kids got to remember that too. If somebody hadn't put down the dirt road, we'd have never got the paved road.
That's right.
That's right. Sean Burchett, he changed the game for everybody overnight.
I watched him a lot when I was had first got my permit and stuff, and he roped calves too. I watched him roping calves a little too, but he was so quick, and he intrigued me just watching him.
Yeah, to me, he's the guy that probably changed steer roping the most for the way we do it now. But
then Riley O'Rourke looks a lot like Sean Burchett the way he does stuff too.
Woo wee! He rides his horse a little better than Sean did, quite a bit better actually.
Yep, no, you're probably right.
When he needs to ride his horse, he will. Or Sean, well, he was bailing off. He was bailing off. No one ever seen anything like it. I saw a picture of Sean here just the other day. Steer's still on his feet. The slack's still in the trip, and his foot's on the ground, Jimbo.
Yeah.
That's something else. Don, Ed, thank you for coming on. We sure appreciate you, man.
Come see us.
Thank y'all. I appreciate it.
Keep up the good work, too.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
All right, man.
Later.
Jimbo, that was a good one.
That's a real good one.
That was a good one. I think steer roping is in good hands.
I do too. If we can just get the cattle, keep good cattle.
Just keep the cattle. Just keep any cattle, actually.
Right.
Any cattle would be better than no cattle.
Oh, yeah. Got to have something.
Well, this has been a good one. Be sure, stop by the Buck and Flamingo Turquoise Shop. Come see us over here at the museum. Buy yourself a Shorty's Hattery.
Yeah.
And I want to thank Vic Carmen, the old announcer. We did a podcast with him a while back. He made Jimbo a personal planner deal with a notebook, leather bound, and I was giving him a hard time, and I'll be dang, he just sent me one with my brand on it, and I love it. Thank you, Vic Carmen. Way to go. All right, see everybody next week.
Later.